It has been 750 days since the Senate last passed a budget bill. Republicans now demanding that Democrats offer up a proposal so they can debate it. South Dakota Senator John Thune is chair of the Republican Policy Committee and a member of the Senate Budget Committee. How you doing, Senator, and welcome back here.
I'm doing well, Bill. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning to you. What's the holdup?
Good question. There seems to be a real lack of urgency around here. 750 days and counting. We have a $3.8 trillion enterprise called the federal government. You would think the most fundamental responsibility that we would have to the taxpayers of this country is to pass a budget. But that's where we are. I'm on the Budget Committee. We have yet to see a budget. We understand that Chairman Conrad may have something out there circulating, and we understand that it continues to move further to the left to satisfy some of his more liberal Democrats, and that means more tax increases. And but that's all we hear. So
okay, now
we continue to wait.
Now all your colleagues here, well, you guys were all over Twitter yesterday. You sent this out. You said, as of yesterday, 749 days have passed since the Senate Dems have passed a budget with a national debt over $14 trillion. What's the rush? Now you have to have an idea about a strategy. What's their strategy, you think?
Well, I honestly, seriously, Bill, I don't think they want to have a budget because I don't think they want this debate. Since the president's come to power, they've added $3.2 trillion to the federal debt. They have dramatically expanded the size of government, and I think that they continue to believe they can kick the can down the road. The problem is we're running out of road. We can't afford to do this any longer. As you saw, perhaps in the last few days here, the Medicare and Social Security trustees reports came out. Social Security is running a $32 billion cash deficit this year, or I should say a $46 billion cash deficit. Medicare is running a $32 billion cash deficit. That means we have to borrow money to help offset that. It just continues to worsen the longer we wait. We don't have the luxury of time. I don't know what they're waiting for other than that they don't think it's politically advantageous for them to have this debate.
I mean, politics are always involved in this. Could it be that they're waiting on this gang of six or gang of five, whatever it is today, to make its move and recommendation?
They could be. The gang of six, however, having lost one of the fiscal conservatives on there, I think is less likely to report something out that could be used. I do believe perhaps maybe they're waiting for these discussions that are going on between the White House and some of the congressional leaders, but that doesn't negate the responsibility, Bill, that we have as a Congress to do a budget. The House passed a budget several weeks ago. People may not like it, but they put it out there. It's been discussed a lot across the country. The Senate hasn't passed a budget in 750 days. I mean, think about that. That's $3.8 trillion of the taxpayers' money that we're spending without any idea about how we're going to spend it.
Back to one more question here on this point, and you said 2 answers ago that you don't think Democrats want to have this debate. Do you also believe, though, that members of Congress, now more so than ever, are well aware what the American people are aware of, and that's the fear of the future with a $14 trillion debt? If that's the case, and you're not going to get up and get it done, you're going to pay for it politically. If not today, in 2 years, right?
I believe that's true, and I think that the American people are more engaged in this than they ever have been before. I think they realize that we are on the verge of a debt crisis, and they understand what the implications of that could be for them and for their families and for their pocketbooks. And I think they want action out of Washington. And so I hope.
But that's not just true for Democrats either. I mean, they're watching you too, and what Republicans do.
Absolutely, and I think that we need to be held accountable. But the point I made earlier is still true, and that is, since Republicans took the House last year, they passed a budget this year. They passed a budget which was talked about a lot, but the Senate hasn't done anything on that front yet. So we're waiting for the Democrat-controlled Senate to act and for the White House to work with us to produce something that actually reduces spending.
750 today. We'll count it up. Senator, thank you. John Thune with us today.